Hello and welcome to my video all about cable knitting abbreviations. I'm going to try and explain how you go about reading those cable abbreviations in knitting patterns that contain three numbers. For instance, 2/1/2 LPC. If you haven't seen my video about these abbreviations but with two numbers, then I would recommend watching that one first. I'm first going to look at what the letters represent. The letter L means that it's a left cross cable, or a left leaning cable. Whenever you do a left leaning or left cross cable, the cable needle always comes in front of the knitting needles. The letter P means that it's a purl cross, so the cable contains at least one purl stitch, and the C stands for cross. So overall, you would read this abbreviation as 2/1/2 left purl cross. Okay, so how does an abbreviation with two numbers, for instance 2/1 LPC, differ from one with three numbers? Well, the one with two numbers just represents one single cable, whereas the one with three numbers represents where two cables cross over each other. So at the crossing point between two cables is where you'll find this three numbered cross. If we just go back to the letter P in this abbreviation, I just want to note that usually this refers to the middle number. So in this particular cross, I would assume we will use one purl stitch. However, and this is an important note, you can't take this for granted. You can't assume what an abbreviation might mean, because between different knitting patterns, they might mean different things. So when you're reading a knitting pattern for cables, you'll see that there will be a key, and each symbol will be exactly explained. So always refer to that as your primary source of instruction. Okay, so now I'm going to walk through a formula, if you will, for how to approach this kind of abbreviation. So if I assume that you don't have instructions for how to follow this abbreviation in your pattern, then you would follow this simple formula. And this works for any three-number cable. I had to work this formula out myself because I just could not find it anywhere online or in books, so I really hope that it helps you as much as it helps me. Okay, so we're going to focus on left purl crosses first. I'm not going to do a walkthrough of the formula for left crosses as well, because all you need to do is swap the purl stitches in the LPC for knit stitches. Okay, so for an LPC, you take the first two numbers in the abbreviation and add them together. So in this case, that's 2 + 1, which is 3. And these stitches are slipped onto the cable needle, and the cable needle is held at the front. You then knit the last number in the abbreviation from the left-hand needle to the right. So in this case, you knit 2 stitches. Then, from the left-hand side of the cable needle, you would slip the middle number of stitches from the cable needle to the left-hand needle. And then, because it's an LPC, you would purl this stitch. And finally, you will knit the first number of stitches in the abbreviation from the cable needle. And that completes the instruction for any LPC that you want to knit. For an RPC, you start by adding the second and third numbers in the abbreviation together. So in this case, it's 1 + 2, which is 3. You slip this number of stitches onto the cable needle and hold the needle at the back. Then you knit the first number of stitches from the left-hand needle to the right. Then slip the second number of stitches from the cable needle to the left-hand needle before purling that number of stitches. And finally, you knit all the stitches off the cable needle. And that's how you knit any RPC. As you can see in this expertly drawn diagram, there is a left leaning cable going from the bottom right to the top left corner. And you can see that it goes over a right leaning cable and under a right leaning cable. And in the pattern where these cross, you will find a 3-number abbreviation. In this example, I'm going to assume that all the cable strands are 2 stitches wide and the background stitch is reverse stockinette. So how do you make that left-leaning red cable go over one of the right-leaning cables and under the other? Well, if we look at where the cables cross in the bottom right corner, we want the left-leaning cable to be the dominant one. We want that one to be in front or on top. Therefore, we make this one a left-leaning purl cross. For where the cables cross in the top left corner, we want the right-leaning cable to be the dominant one that's on top of the other. So, for that cross, we do a right-leaning purl cross. And that's the only change you need to make in order to put one cable in front of or behind the other. And lastly, I'm going to do a quick demo showing how 2/1/2 cable crosses are created. And I'm going to use differently coloured ribbons to make this more clear. I've got black ribbon, which I'm going to use to represent 2 knit stitches, purple ribbon to represent 1 knit stitch, and silver ribbon to represent 2 knit stitches. Obviously, in real life, all of these stitches would look the same and be the same colour. So first, I'm going to do a 2/1/2 left cross. I slip 3 stitches, which are the black and the purple ribbons, onto the cable needle, and keep the cable needle at the front. I then knit the 2 stitches of the silver ribbon so that it crosses behind the black and purple ribbons to the right hand needle. You then slip the leftmost stitch on the cable needle, which is the purple ribbon, from the cable needle onto the left hand needle. Then you knit that stitch so it goes behind the black but not the silver and onto the right hand needle. Then you knit the 2 stitches, which is the black ribbon, off the cable needle. So therefore we have the silver ahead of the purple, which is ahead of the black. And in terms of layers, the black crosses over the purple, which crosses over the silver, and the black is left leaning. You might notice that the purple ribbon stays in the same place, in that it's in between the black and the silver, so it doesn't move left or right. The fact that it remains unmoved means that it's a stable stitch. So in all of the 3-number abbreviations that I've seen, the middle number refers to the stable stitch in the cable cross. And in this example, it's a knit stitch, whereas in a purl cross, the stable stitch would be a purl. So how do you know if you want this stable stitch to be a knit or a purl? Well, it all depends on what background stitch you're using. If you're using a reverse stockinette stitch as the background, which is made up of purls on the front or the right side of your knitting, then you would choose a purl for the stable stitch. However, if you're using a stockinette stitch as the background, which is formed from knit stitches on the front or right side of your knitting, then you would choose a knit for the stable stitch instead. For my last demo, I'm going to show you the right-leaning version of this cable as well. So that's the 2/1/2 RC. So I slip 3 stitches, which are represented by the black and purple ribbon, onto the cable needle and put that needle at the back. I then knit 2 stitches, represented by the silver ribbon, so that moves from the left-hand needle to the right-hand needle and passes in front of the black and purple ribbons. I then slip the stitch leftmost on the cable needle, which is the purple ribbon, back to the left-hand needle, and then I knit that stitch. Finally, I knit the stitches from the cable needle. So it's silver crossing over purple, crossing over black, where the purple is once again the stable stitch and the silver is right leaning. So I really hope that these demonstrations and examples have helped you understand how these cable crosses are formed, and thank you very much for watching.